Okay, if you've ever sat down for a big standardized test, SAT, ACT, you name it, you know that feeling, right? The clock's ticking, the pressure's on, and you've got the voice of every teacher you've ever had ringing in your ears.
We're all taught the same thing. Slow and steady wins the race. But what if I told you that when it comes to acing these tests, that universal piece of advice is, well, it's just plain wrong? What if it's the very thing keeping you from getting the score you deserve?
Sound familiar? Of course it does. And this well-meaning advice puts every single student in a really tough spot. You're caught in this trap where you have to go fast enough to finish, but slow enough to be accurate. It's like, how are you supposed to do both at the same time?
And that right there is the dilemma. That's the trap. By trying to play it safe, by being super careful and methodical, you could actually be sabotaging your own score. So we're going to explore a totally different way of thinking, one that flips this old advice right on its head. But first, let's get one thing crystal clear. We are not talking about rushing. Rushing is what happens when you panic. It's anxious, it's careless, and it's where silly mistakes happen. Velocity, on the other hand, that is a whole different ballgame. Velocity is strategic, it's efficient, it's moving with purpose.
Yeah, the goal here is not to be reckless. It's to be incredibly efficient. The whole point of building this strategic speed, this velocity, is to buy yourself the single most valuable, non-renewable resource you have during that exam. And what is that? It's time. But here's the twist. Just finishing early isn't the win. The real killer advantage comes from what you do with that extra time. It's not for kicking back and relaxing. It's for using your new secret weapon.
So, what's this secret weapon? It's the power of a complete redo. See, we're always told to look over or check our work. But honestly, that whole method is fundamentally broken.
Think about it. Looking over your work is super passive, right? You're just kind of glancing at it, and your brain just wants to confirm what you already did. But redoing a problem, that's totally active. It means you cover up your first attempt, and you solve it again from scratch, forcing a totally fresh perspective.
And there's a really powerful psychological reason this works so well. It's called confirmation bias. Your brain is literally wired to look for evidence that proves it was right the first time. So when you look over your work, you're not actually looking for mistakes. You're looking for reasons you are right, which makes you blind to your own errors.
Here's a perfect example. It's like proofreading your own essay versus a friend's, right? You can read your own paper 5 times and miss a huge glaring typo, but you hand it to a friend and they'll spot it in like 10 seconds. Redoing a problem is how you become your own friend with a fresh set of eyes. You totally break that cycle of bias.
All right, so the goal is clear. Finish early so you can redo the tough stuff. But how do you actually get faster without just being reckless? Well, here are 2 killer tactics you can start using right away. First up, and this is a total game changer for math sections, is a technique called plugging in numbers. This is your absolute best friend whenever you see one of those scary-looking algebra problems filled with variables like x and y.
So instead of wrestling with all that abstract algebra, you just swap the variables for simple, easy numbers. Let's say a problem says, if x is 3 more than y squared. Don't even try to do the algebra. Just pick a number for y, something easy like 2. Okay, so if y is 2, then y squared is 4, which means x must be 7. And boom, just like that. You're working with simple arithmetic, not confusing letters. It's way faster, and you're so much less likely to make a mistake.
All right, tactic number 2 is a little different. It's less about raw calculation and more about, well, getting inside the head of the person who wrote the test. It's all about spotting the common traps they plant in the answer choices.
You have to remember, test writers are clever. They know the common mistakes we all make, and they literally design wrong answers based on those mistakes. You know how you sometimes forget a negative sign? Bam, there's an answer choice that's just the positive version. Or you mix up feet and inches. There's an answer for that too. They even put in partial answers. Like you solve for x, but the question actually asked for 2x. Once you start seeing these traps, you can eliminate wrong answers so much faster.
Okay, so let's put this all together. What does your new game plan look like on test day? This is what we call the velocity advantage. It's a really simple 4-step process. Step 1, you work with that strategic velocity, using tactics like plugging in numbers and spotting traps. Step 2, that lets you finish the section with a nice buffer of time. Step 3, and this is the magic part, you use that extra time to go back and redo the hard questions from scratch. And step 4, you catch all those sneaky mistakes that your biased brain would have just skimmed right over. So look, At the end of the day, this isn't about rushing just to be the first person done. It's about being smarter than the test. It's about strategically earning yourself a fresh, unbiased attempt on the questions that matter the most. It's about giving yourself a second chance to get it right.
So that leaves me with a question for you. The next time you hear one of those rules, some piece of conventional wisdom, I want you to stop and ask yourself, is this rule actually helping me, or is it just a trap? Because sometimes breaking the rules is the first step to a real breakthrough. What other rules in your life might be holding you